1. South Korean Choi Gap-bok was arrested on September 12, 2012 for robbery charges. Choi was a yoga practitioner of 23 years, and on September 17th, just 5 days after his arrest, he squeezed through a food slot that was only 6 inches tall and 18 inches wide. 3 inmates, Frank Lee Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin, famously escaped Alcatraz, a maximum security federal prison, on June 11, 1962. Using spoons, they tunneled through a concrete wall, leaving papier-mâché dummies in their beds to deceive guards during nightly checks. Their boat, crafted from over 50 stolen raincoats, helped them vanish into the water. Despite a search the next morning, they were never found. It is believed they escaped and lived the rest of their lives in Brazil. 3. Joaquin Guzman Loera, a.k.a. El Chapo, the notorious Mexican drug lord, has pulled off 2 daring prison escapes. In 2001, he bribed guards and fled in a laundry cart, evading capture for 13 years. In 2014, he made headlines again when he escaped using a sophisticated mile-long tunnel underneath the showers of the maximum security prison, equipped with lighting, ventilation, and a modified motorcycle. Captured in 2016, he currently remains incarcerated. 4. Frank Abagnale, the infamous con artist depicted in Catch Me If You Can, executed 2 daring escapes. In 1969, he slipped off a British airplane at JFK while being deported to the U.S. Then, in 1971, he masterminded an elaborate ruse to trick guards into believing he was an undercover inspector by forging a fake FBI card. The guards gave him special treatment, and eventually he walked right out the prison, and guards allowed it. Henry Brown, who was born as a slave in 1816, made an agonizing solo escape to freedom after his owner suddenly sold Brown's wife and children to a new owner. Brown had a sympathetic carpenter build a box 3 feet long and 2 feet wide with Brown squeezed inside of it. His 2 friends mailed the box from North Carolina to the Pennsylvania Anti-Slavery Society in Philadelphia. The journey lasted over 27 hours. Brown had little water and ventilation holes, but he made it and later became an active member in Philadelphia's abolitionist community. William F. Cody, famously known as Buffalo Bill, was a frontier legend renowned for his buffalo hunting. Cody made a daring escape from Indian captors in the early 1860s near Fort Larned, Colorado. Exploiting their need for food, he led them to a nearby cattle herd, then broke free during the journey. Despite being pursued for 6 miles, enduring arrow attacks and attempts to dismount him, Cody outmaneuvered his pursuers and slipped away to safety in Fort Larned. John Dillinger, dubbed Public Enemy No. 1 by the FBI, executed 2 daring jailbreaks during his notorious career as a bank robber and murderer. With the aid of friends, he escaped an Ohio jail initially. Later, at Lake County Jail in Crown Point, Indiana, deemed escape-proof, Dillinger famously used a fake gun, likely crafted from wood and painted black, to trick guards into letting him go. Despite a brief spree of robberies, he met his demise in a shootout with the FBI a few months later. In 2012, Brazilian drug trafficker Ronald Silva orchestrated a daring escape from prison, disguised in his wife's clothing, complete with wig, makeup, and heels. He walked past guards unnoticed. In an escape that sounds unbelievable, 3 inmates escaped in the UK by memorizing the outline of a key. Inmates Andrew Roger, Keith Rose, and Matthew Williams worked in the prison's sheet metal shop and made all the necessary tools for their escape in the shop. They memorized a guard's master key outline and made a replica that essentially allowed them to open any door during their escape. Dieter Dengler was a German-American Navy pilot during the Vietnam War. After his plane was shot down, he was put into a jungle prison camp called Pathet Lao. Unbeknownst to his captors, Dengler was trained in Germany on escaping from POW camps and managed to create a scale model of the camp with 7 other prisoners, where they could coordinate locations of the guards around the clock. Dieter was one of the 2 prisoners who managed to escape before being rescued by the United States. In late 2010, the Mujahideen began work on a 1,000-foot tunnel in the city of Kandahar, with the hopes of freeing hundreds of Taliban insurgents. The tunnel, which took 5 months to dig, bypassed government buildings, watchtowers, barriers topped with razor wire, and went through the concrete floor of an Afghan prison. On April 25, 2011, 480 prisoners crawled to freedom in less than 30 minutes. Mary, Queen of Scots, faced imprisonment in remote Lochleven Castle after a rebellion by Scottish nobles in 1567. Despite pleas for help to Queen Elizabeth and the Queen of France, she found no assistance. Undeterred, Mary plotted her escape. Her first attempt, disguised as a laundress, failed when her pristine appearance betrayed her. However, on May 2, 1568, aided by an orphan she befriended, Mary successfully fled the castle, crossed to the mainland by boat, and rode away on a horse stolen from her captor's stables. Despite elaborate German precautions at Stalag Luft III, one of the largest Allied prisoner-of-war camps during World War II, the ingenuity and determination of the inmates led to one of the most remarkable mass escapes of the war. Led by Roger Bushell, the escape committee orchestrated the digging of 3 tunnels named Tom, Dick, and Harry. Despite the risk of detection from seismographs and vigilant guards, 76 men managed to escape through Tunnel Harry on March 24, 1944. Sadly, only 3 reached safety, while 15 were recaptured and the remaining 50 were executed on Hitler's orders. In 1994, Robert Dale Shepard was being held at the South Central Regional Jail in South Charleston, West Virginia. He managed to braid a rope made from dental floss and climbed his way to freedom. The rope had the thickness of a telephone cord and helped him climb down the 18-foot cinder block walls and used a hacksaw to cut through the fence. Alfred Wetzler was one of the many unfortunate people who were imprisoned at Auschwitz in Nazi Germany. His claim to fame was being one of the 4 Jews who successfully escaped from the death camp. He accomplished this by hollowing out a wood pile and hiding out inside. Helpers then sprinkled the ground with tobacco soaked in gasoline so that dogs wouldn't be able to find them. After Wetzler and his friend hid out for several days, they escaped by wearing Dutch suits and overcoats and headed to the Polish border, using a child's atlas as their map. Convicted murderer Glenn Stewart Godwin escaped from Folsom State Prison in California in 1980. It is believed his wife and his cellmate helped plan his escape. Godwin got out through a 1,000-foot storm pipe that ran underneath the prison. It is said The Shawshank Redemption is based on that escape. He then went to Mexico, where he began to participate in the illegal drug trade. He has yet to be captured,